For 2019, McLaren have a brand new driver lineup. The youngest driver ever in their history, Lando Norris, joins the team as a British rookie straight out of Formula 2. But today I want to focus on the other guy in the other seat, number 55, Carlos Sainz, who has been brought into this team very much so to replace double world champion and fellow Spaniard Fernando Alonso. And what I want to ask today is, can Sainz fill the gap left by Alonso? Can Sainz, or is Sainz the man to get McLaren back to greatness? Now, I don't think anyone's going to deny that ever since 2012, McLaren have had a bit of a difficult time of it. 2013 struggled, bought in Sergio Perez, that didn't quite work out. 2014, they bought in Kevin Magnussen, again, didn't work out. A couple of podiums in the first race of the season, courtesy of Button and Magnussen, but didn't really work out. Then we had 2015, the team went to Honda engines, bought in Fernando Alonso. It was going to be this big renaissance for McLaren, but I think we all know that did not go how it planned. Awful reliability caused Jenson Button to leave the team at the end of the following season in 2016. Then came in Stoffel Van Dorn, the young hotshot rookie in that McLaren, but really struggled year one, really struggled year two. Ultimately, the team last year resulting to Renault engines just ditching the Honda plan whatsoever, and now they're almost stuck in this rut of trying to scrape their way into that front of the midfield fight, which they could find really difficult this year. However, what has been constant ever since 2015 has been the performances of Fernando Alonso, arguably the most reliable guy in Formula 1. Even if that car was an absolute dog to drive, any circuit, anywhere around the world, any conditions, he was always able to get the best out of the car. And on some occasions, if things had gone his way just a little bit better, could have got on the podium. I'm thinking Singapore 2017. If he wasn't taken out in that first corner, we could have seen a McLaren podium. However, it didn't quite add up together for Fernando. Didn't ever get that podium, and unfortunately for the team and for Formula 1, he retired at the end of last season. So, McLaren had a choice. Do they stick with Van Dorn, make him the team leader, and bring in Norris? Or do they try something a little bit different? And that's exactly what they did. They went out shopping. They went to that driver market and they had a little look around. They had a browse who was available. And ultimately, they went with Carlos Sainz to replace Fernando. Now, I want to discuss, is he the best replacement? And looking at the driver market at the time, there wasn't many options for McLaren. There was rumours that they were looking at Daniel Ricciardo, but I fully agree that I think Ricciardo, even if he was approached, probably wouldn't have been the best move to go to McLaren. A team that are, like I say, trying to fight their way back up into that front of the midfield fight. I mean, they're not even looking at podiums just yet. That's still a few years down the line, at least. So I don't think Ricciardo would have gone there. Talks about Esteban Ocon going to McLaren. I think that would have been quite a nice fit. However, Ocon, limited experience in Formula 1, 2.5 seasons. Did McLaren want to get someone who'd only had half a season more than Van Dorn? Was it worth the risk to try and snatch a Mercedes driver out of his seat? Not too sure about that either. Sainz, on the other hand, a proven driver. 4 seasons in Formula 1, going into his 5th this year. A nice round number. Still a young driver, but has got experience to show for it. 4th place is his best ever finish in Formula 1, so he still hasn't hit those big heights. That's quite nice for McLaren if he's able to get his first podium in Formula 1 with McLaren. But at the same time, a 4th place proves he's got skill. And he has proved that, beating every single one of his teammates except Max Verstappen and the super highly rated, slash underrated I suppose, highly rated in the midfield, underrated any further than that, Nico Hülkenberg. So, is he going to be as good as Alonso? No. Let's get that out there whatsoever. Sainz is not a serial world champion. And I think even if McLaren mould him into someone who's as consistent as Hülkenberg, which actually, on the quiet last year, Sainz was very consistent. Apart from the top 6 drivers, he got the most points finishes of anyone. He had 13 points finishes, Perez had 12, Hülkenberg had 11. And although Sainz finished 10th in the standings, Alonso 11th, and he was a fair points gap off of his teammate Hulkenberg. Those points finishes helped Renault to a 4th place finish in the championship. And if you think about it, last year was Sainz's first chance at a real star-studded name in Formula 1, Renault, where, funnily enough, Alonso got his 2 world championships. Before then, he was at Toro Rosso, a team where he matched Verstappen in his first year, but very quickly it was proven that while Sainz might be a consistent driver, he's not going to be that super talented A-star flair driver, as I like to call them. Drivers who are going to make those moves when they're not quite on, but they make them stick. They pull out those qualifying laps when no one else is going to do it. Someone that Alonso fitted the bill perfectly. That's exactly who Fernando Alonso was. That's exactly who Max Verstappen is. So why have McLaren taken Sainz on? Well, as I mentioned, he's consistent. He doesn't get himself into trouble, and generally, he gets the job done. And that's exactly what McLaren are looking for right now, because they've come to the realisation that they're not one of the Formula 1 big dogs anymore. Yes, they've got history. Yes, they do have a budget, but compare that to a Ferrari, to a Mercedes, to Renault, even to Racing Point now, who have money coming in from the Stroll family. McLaren realise they're in such a complete different mindset to what they were the past few years, because what they were trying to do, whether this is because they had Alonso in the team, is they tried to go for quick fixes. For example, getting rid of those Honda engines. Yes, at the time, in that particular season, it made sense, but look at it now. Red Bull have Honda engines this year. Does anyone expect them to be down 8th, 9th in the championship? No, they don't. They expect them to be fighting at the front, and many still believe could be in for a title hunt with Max Verstappen. Should McLaren have kept Honda? We know hindsight is a brilliant thing, but was that just a quick fix to please starman Fernando Alonso? And don't get me wrong, Alonso is a fantastic driver and still, I think, deserves to be in Formula 1 and has the skills to win another championship, but there's still that question mark on how he can develop a team, how he creates team morale, or in other ways, destroy team morale. You know, think back to all those team radio messages he did, fallouts with McLaren the first time, with Ferrari. If he'd have stuck around at Ferrari, he would have been world champion. So, yes, in those examples there were issues along the way, we get that, but Alonso always had that little knack of just peeing people off. And that was the character he was. Now this, like I say, this is nowhere near a character assassination, but what I'm trying to explain is that Sainz is so different to Alonso. This is new times for McLaren. Because what Sainz will give you is a grounding. First of all, for the team, they know he's going to be consistent with the car. He's going to give them reliable information, which I'm sure he has done this week and will do next week in testing. And will be a perfect benchmark for Lando Norris. Someone who the team are hoping will be a superstar driver. I'm still not too sure about that. I'm not sold on that just yet. But Sainz will be the perfect teammate, just as he was with Verstappen, to be a benchmark. You know, like I think this is perfectly what Nico Hulkenberg is going to do at Renault for Daniel Ricciardo, to prove if Ricciardo really is one of the greats in Formula 1. Again, I think he is, but drivers like Hulkenberg, like Sainz, who aren't necessarily the quickest or aren't going to give you crazy dive bomb moves or anything flashy like that, they give you consistency. And it's a different style of driver. And I think it's perfect for what McLaren need right now. So, yes, Fernando Alonso, if he was in this car this year, he would probably produce them their best results of the season. Maybe even, probably would have actually, scored more points than either Norris or Sainz. But I think what McLaren need now is consistency. They need to slowly build a car, slowly work that team back to the front, and that's exactly what Carlos Sainz is going to do. So when I ask, can Sainz fill the gap left behind by Alonso? Yes, I believe he can. And at the same time, I actually think right now he's the perfect fit for McLaren, and actually for the team as a whole, in the long run, will do a better job than Fernando Alonso could have done. Yes, I know that's going to be controversial and people won't like that, but for someone like Norris in the team, for a team that wants to get back to the front, Sainz is the guy. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below, because I'm sure this is going to get people talking. And yes, Alonso is one of the best of all time, and I think he should be back in Formula 1. But for McLaren, I think he caused issues within that team, and I think Sainz and Norris are just going to crack on with it. You're not going to hear team radios, you're not going to hear moaning, and I think a few years down the line, they'll be thanking whoever made the decision to get these two in. Again, I'd love to know your thoughts. Thank you for listening to me, and I'll see you guys in the next one.